Okay, this is now the 5-minute tarot for the 17th of May 2017. And today, Sergey had asked a question about how do you read cards for the questioner so that you can get practical steps that you can pass on, practical steps that the cards suggest. Okay, so because, for instance, you've got Celtic Cross can be complicated, but you still want to give people useful, practical information about what to do or how to handle a situation. So how do you derive practical information from a card? And okay, so this is what I want to look at today. And it's kind of easy to think of the tarot as if you've got a bunch of whatever the card is, you've got a bunch of meanings, and it's like the meanings are over here, and then you've got the question over here, and what you do is you pick one of the meanings from the list, and then you take it over and you transfer it, and you slot it neatly into place as part of the answer. And it's a bit like these interlocking tiles that my grandson has on the floor, right? So, and sometimes a reading is like that, where you take a word or something obvious from the card itself and mention that, and that's enough information for the questioner. So, for instance, the hermit card could come up, and so you might say to the questioner, the thing to do is to be like a hermit, and they think, okay, I'll be like the hermit, and that's kind of okay. Or maybe you say, be like the sun, if the sun card comes up. And that type of general, be like a hermit or be like the sun and shine, these are general instructions. But knowing the general information may not answer how you go about being a hermit or how to be like the sun. Because being the hermit isn't just being alone, although that's part of it probably, but it may not be enough information for the questioner to be told be like the hermit, because they need to know, okay, how do I go about this? What's the best way to do it? So there's more to the hermit than just being alone. Or if you say to the person, be like the sun and shine, they may say, okay, but how do I shine? How do I go about it? Do I shine even if people don't want me to shine? What do I do if it's cloudy? Things like that. So with this in mind, where you've got a general idea or general points and meanings for a particular card, how do you adjust that general statement to be practical and realistic for the questioner? And today I'd like to talk about the High Priestess, and this is because yesterday I had a discussion with an accountant. So her problem was that she worked for a company who do work for other companies. Okay, so let's say you're in the accounting department. You send a list of questions or a list of problems to this woman, right? And she'll solve the problems or give you solutions for the problems. But ideally, before you send the list of problems, you've read through various information that she has given you so that you can do a lot of the work on your own, and you don't need to waste her time. You don't need to take up her time answering questions that you could easily answer for yourself, right? So instead of sending 10 questions, and then she's got to send 10 emails back saying, okay, have you done this? Because if you look at the list that she gives you or the information she gives you, you would find that point number one is do this, right? So it can save a lot of time and aggravation for people as well. So if the people kind of do their homework first, right? So she wanted to know how to solve that problem or what she could do to solve that particular problem. And the answer we got was the High Priestess reversed. So if we go to our pile of meanings over here, kind of, the High Priestess can be about privacy or authority, right? Because the High Priestess is kind of private. She has expertise. She has a certain amount of authority as well. Or maybe the High Priestess, when it's reversed, is about showing respect. So maybe she wanted the people sending her the work to show some respect for her expertise, which is okay, but somehow we could have thought along those lines and maybe come up with an answer. But at one point, she mentioned that people don't like to read. Like she sends them the pages and the information, but they don't like to read. And that was the clue, I thought, because if you look at the High Priestess, and it was reversed. So the High Priestess shows this woman sitting with a book on her lap, but it's upside down. And what do you do with a book? You read it. And what do you do with a reversed card? You don't do something with it. Okay, so the accountant mentioning that people don't like to read seemed to me why the High Priestess reverse came up. It wasn't about expertise or authority. It was about the fact that the people don't like to read. So that was the problem, that's what the problem was about. So what do you do? And what's the practical, going back to Sergei's question, what's the practical step to take? So if people don't like to read, instead of giving them 3 pages of text with about 250 words on each page, because that's the average number of words on a page, you give them 750 words and they're not going to read it. So what you do is you give them bullet points, right? So they're more likely to do it. So instead of making 5 points, you give them 5 bullet points, like 15 words, let's say. And they'll see it's a small reading task and they're more likely to do it. Or maybe you give them a summary, right? So you choose the 5 things you want them to do, but instead of going into it in detail, you give them a 1 or 2 sentences for each point. So that's a practical step to take to solve the problem of the people not wanting to read. And it was reminded of, there was a Hollywood producer who said that if you can't write your idea for the movie on the back of a business card, you don't have an idea. Right, you have to be able to summarize the whole point of the movie on the back of a business card. So you can only use maybe 10, 15 words because a business card is not very big. And that kind of zeroing in on and being precise is important. So I think in some ways, when you turn a card, the tarot is giving you a starting point. It's giving you maybe step 1 and step 2, but then it's up to us, the reader, to do the rest. So you can, if you want, you can turn a card and you can take step 1 and step 2 and stop at that point, and that's okay. And you're going to be able to give good general information to the questioner or as an answer to the question. But if you want to go further, I think it's about you and your ability and your imagination, and it's not so much about the tarot itself anymore. So if we go back a couple of minutes in this video, the High Priestess doesn't, when it's reversed, doesn't always represent bullet points. It doesn't mean bullet points. But if people don't like to read, and the High Priestess reverse comes up, it can make sense that you give them bullet points. And maybe we would get the same idea of bullet points or short summaries from the Wheel of Fortune, because if you look around the outside of the Wheel of Fortune, you've got the 4 animals and they're leaning on a book, right? So you could have got and if the Wheel of Fortune is reversed, you might have got the idea of bullet points from the Wheel of Fortune reversed. But you don't get the idea of bullet points directly from the Emperor or the Sun card. With the Sun card, if you look at we've got straight rays and jagged rays. So with the Sun card, when it comes to reading, we might talk about 2 methods, right? Because we've got the straight line and we've got the jagged line. So maybe there are 2 methods. So maybe you give people a choice. Either read this paragraph or read this point. Or else you come up with alternating methods. So with one type of individual, maybe you've got some way of putting people into one of 2 camps, or one of 2 types. And so if you're this type, do this. If you're this other type, do this other exercise. And that's the way of solving the problem of people not wanting to read. But if we turn over the Emperor and we talk about using bullet points, that idea of using bullet points and summaries isn't from the card itself. So it may be correct. You may be being intuitive or psychic, and you're saying what's important, what's correct, but it could just as easily be incorrect, and you're guessing, or you're basically, your psychic impression is incorrect, it's wrong. So I think it's a better idea to go with leads from the card itself and not go with leads from your own imagination, because your own imagination could be wishful thinking. Whereas if you start with the card and what's on it and are quite strict about talking and developing ideas that are contained in the picture on the card that you got, I don't think you're going to go wrong the same way. Okay, that was it for today. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be something else. Okay, bye-bye.